I'm going to just say this. If you're watching this and you're an entrepreneur, you must understand the difference between spending and investing.
Yeah.
You spend money on this. It's a lovely jacket. It's lovely. I like it. As soon as I saw it, I said, Roman looks good in that jacket, right? It's awesome. You spend money on, these jeans or those shoes, those funky, cool shoes you're wearing, right? That money, you spend it, is gone. Okay, you're going to enjoy it. You're going to benefit from it. But that spending is to put money out with no expectation of anything coming back. Investing is putting money out with an expectation of a massive return. 10x, 100x. The reason that I keep investing in myself with Amer and his team is because when I lost all the weight, something came to me as, what the hell else have I been telling myself I cannot do for whatever bullshit story that's a lie? Like this, because I've told myself, you're 50 now, you're not going to lose weight anymore. This is it. This is as good as it's going to get. And it was a lie.
Welcome to the Best Half Show. This is a show all about how to 10x the second half of your life and still the #1 standing podcast in the world. And why is that? That's because sitting is the new smoking. We stand, we have lots of energy, and today is a very special episode. And joined here with Roman Bodachuk. Why don't you talk to us a little bit why this is going to be the most special episode yet?
Yeah, this is a big one, guys. We're really excited to be here because we have our very first guest. And we couldn't have asked for anyone better than Nicky Billou. Nicky's a great friend of mine, an incredible freedom lover. We really reconnected, I guess, during COVID. It was a difficult time. And even Mark and I, we all reconnected at that time because freedom lovers, we had to get together at that time. The world was forced changes on us and some of it didn't make any sense to us. But Nicky's a New York Times best-selling author. He has a #1 podcast on thought leadership. I've had the privilege to be on his podcast. He's had some incredible guests. So we have a very powerful episode. And the reason I asked Nicky to be here today is because he just went through an epic body transformation. And Nicky, you're not as young as some people. You're now at 57?
57.
And when I saw the photos that you posted, I was like, oh my God, I don't know, like a 20-year-old that wouldn't die to have that body. So we'll talk about that. And Mark and I have gone through our own transformation. And then you just sent me some photos that were just like insane. Hopefully we'll show some of these photos on the podcast because they're just incredible.
It is amazing what you can do in the second half of your life physically, especially when you employ first principles thinking and, you ignore a lot of what's in the mainstream media and get into the real science. It is absolutely incredible. And yeah, I can't wait to hear more about from you, from nutrition, from your training and sleep and all the things. I'm sure you had a lot of things dialed in properly to do what you've done.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I'm so excited to join you two men. It's an honor to be your first podcast guest, and I'm ready to dive into the conversation, man. We're going to have some fun.
Awesome.
That's great. Well, maybe let's start with the question you asked. Why at 57, and what I've heard, you have a long-term partner. Things are great there. It's not like you're interested in dating anymore. I mean,
not only Teresa's, she's stunning.
She is.
She's an incredible woman. I mean, incredible partner, but drop dead gorgeous.
Yes.
You've got two amazing sons.
Yep.
So I mean, the question really Mark is posing is like, why now? Like, why did you do this? Because this is really hard. What you did is really hard.
Truly elite shape.
Yeah, elite. Yeah, absolutely.
What's your body fat percentage? When you
I haven't measured it, brother, but I was just on stage the other day and I saw the pictures guys took of me afterwards. You could see all my abs, you could see the veins, so it was pretty good.
Yeah, sub 10. I'm sure it's sub 10. I've studied all these photos and I kind of know what they look like now. But
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the question is why? Like, why did you go through this? Because you clearly didn't have to do this. So why did you do it?
Great question. So let me say this. I used to actually be a top fitness coach. I used to work with Olympic champions. You may remember the great Donovan Bailey, the great Mark McCoy. They were business partners of mine. I worked with, my clients tended to be centimillionaires, multi-billionaires, and I was their coach. And there was a time where I just kind of was done with doing that as a coach. And I got into the world of business coaching, running masterminds, running programs. Oh, that's how you and I got connected, right? When I got into that world. I was still in pretty good shape when I started that, but a switch went off in my head. You're not a fitness guy anymore. Relax. So over a 12-year period, I gained over 50 pounds.
Wow.
And every year I tell myself, hey, this is the year. You know what to do. You're going to get back into shape. And every year I gain more weight. And on February 2nd, 2023, I had my shirt off and I was wearing a pair of jeans. And there's mirrors in my bedroom. And I looked at myself in the mirror with my gut hanging out over my belt. And I was so disgusted with myself, so angry that I'd let myself get into such shitty shape that I said, fuck it. No more. This is the year.
Wow.
And I made some important decisions in that moment. One is that I wasn't going to do it by myself because I kept telling myself, hey, you've been a fitness coach, you know what you're doing. The operative word is you were, not are, but were a fitness coach, past tense.
Right.
And I said, you're no longer a fitness coach. You need a fitness coach.
Yes.
And there had been a fellow that I had been connected with on Facebook named Ammer the Hammer Camera. And he and I had never met, but we've been connected on Facebook. I'd been following him for at least 6 years, watching him post photos of his clients, people our age, fatter than me, that he then put on stage, like looking shredded, ripped, amazing. People older than us, people in their late 50s, early 60s, and beyond. So I said, I'm calling him. And I reached out to him, and he had someone from his team call me back. And I said, no, I want to talk to Amber, please. He said, okay. He said, listen, I normally don't deal with civilians anymore. I deal with athletes, but okay, talk to me. And I said, look, I told him my story, and I said, I only have 2 questions. I want to do something about this. Number one is, at the time I was 55, I said, I'm 55. Do you think it's possible for me? Because I bought the lie that I'm older, this is inevitable, you know what I mean? All that bullshit, right? And he said, yeah, of course it's possible. And then secondly, I said, how long do you think it'll take? He said, honestly, 6 months to a year for you to lose the weight. I've seen it done faster, like as fast as 3 months, but that's a little crazy. 6 months to a year. And I said, okay, you're hired. I had not asked him what he charged at that point. I just said, you're hired. You go, here's my credit card, let's go. And then I said, oh, we're working together, but what's the fee? Just tell me, you know. And he told me the fee, and I'm like, this is nothing. Fine, go. And then 2 weeks later, my lady Teresa, who's in phenomenal shape, but said, I want to do this journey with you. I said, fine. So I called him up, you know, being an entrepreneur. I said, hey man, with couples, do you have a couples rate? You know,
Couples rate.
He said, okay, sure, I'll give you a couples rate. And within 6 months, I weighed 227 on February 2nd. And by August 11th, I was 169.
Wow.
Wow.
So it was a 58-pound drop. But the way my body was shaped, I didn't like the way that it looked. Like, you know what I mean? I just like, no, I need to reshape this. So I said, look, man, I want to reshape this. I got a picture of the 70s Mr. Olympia champion Frank Zane. Do you remember Frank
Yeah,
Zane?
of course.
Cut to ribbons. Yeah.
Frank Zane.
Yeah,
Dude,
ectomorph like
brother.
you too.
So I put Frank Zane's picture on my vision board after this. And I said, I want to look like Frank Zane. He said, okay. I said, maybe I should do competition because that's what he does. He gets people on stage. He goes, okay. So he got me to do a competition. So the decision to do a competition was August of last year. And I kind of didn't really take it super seriously. We did a few things differently. But then, and I hurt myself in December. I banged up my shoulder pretty good. And we had to find a way to train because I couldn't stop training if I wanted to do a competition without continuing to aggravate the injury. So we did that. And then he said, okay, you'll do an April show. He said, you're not going to be ready in April. You know, you've been hurt, whatever. We'll push it off to July. And then in July, he said, I think you need 2-3 more weeks. So I'm pushing you off to August 10th, which was exactly 364 days after the date that I said, yeah, I want to do this. And I went back down. So I went up to 193 to bulk up a little bit. Then I went back down to 167. Show day, I was 168. And it was pretty darn amazing to go there, go through the process. I had to shave my body, get the spray tan that they did. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I go, holy fuck, dude, you look phenomenal. I'm like, damn, that was the first time that I really looked at myself and gave myself permission to like how I looked. Because throughout the process, I made another decision when I hired this guy, is that I was going to do exactly what he said. There was going to be no back talk. There was going to be no arguing with the coaching. And this is a powerful thing, Roman. You and I have discussed this before. If you hire a coach, you're going to argue with the coach, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
The coach has an idiot for a client, right? Because you've decided to trust this person, then trust them. Trust them. And it was difficult at first because he told me to do stuff that, according to what I knew, was not the right way to go about it. But I made the decision to listen to him, so I did everything he said, to the point where people ask me, where's your show? What's the name of your show? And I go, I don't know. They go, what do you mean you don't know? I said, I'm doing what my coach says. He says I'm doing a show August 10th. That's whatever he says I'm doing. Where it is, he'll tell me when he needs me to know the name of the show and where it's going to be. And he did. And I don't need to know. And people go, that's weird. Aren't you like worried about giving up so much control to someone else over your life? I go, no. That's what coaching is.
Awesome. That's so inspiring.
That's what coaching is.
Yeah, that's the power of a great coach, and it's great. So inspiring for me because I'm a coach now. I coach CEOs, and my top weight was also 227.
Wow,
dude!
I took photos last week at 176.
There you go.
I probably still have another 8 pounds of fat-ish to go, I think, in order to get. So I think it's we're probably right on the same height. So it gives me some inspiration, but. That is an incredible amount of weight loss. Was it a straight line? Like, tell me about some of the challenges you had along the way. I mean, one of them was physical. You hurt your shoulder and you kept at it, which is great. What are some of the other things, mental and emotional challenges that you successfully dealt with on your way to success?
So in the initial batch of weight loss, I lost a bunch of weight immediately. So I went from 227 to like 213 or so. And then I plateaued and I was checking in with him at that time every day with food, with weight, everything.
Wow.
After 2-3 days of plateauing, like he said, when he talked, he said, are you doing everything that you say you're doing? Because a lot of people lie. I didn't realize this, but apparently a lot of people lie in check-in. So I'm like, yeah. So he made a few changes and I lost a whole bunch more weight. Getting down to 200 took almost 4 months. Okay, from 227. Getting from 200 to 169, right? That 31 pounds or whatever the heck it was, that was super quick. That was like barely 7 weeks.
Amazing.
Because my body had been at the point where it was clear what needed to happen to keep the result going. So the nutrition plan was really dialed in. I was not having a lot of carbs. I had some carbs, but not a lot of carbs. A lot of protein and fat. More protein than fat. We cut the fat back a little. The workouts were always steady. The cardio kept going up. So the cardio went from 20 minutes at the beginning to 60 in the initial batch of weight loss.
60 minutes a day?
Yeah, 7 days a week. 7 days a week. When I did the contest, I went up to 2 hours a day.
Wow. Just cardio?
Plus an hour and a change of weights, plus 20 minutes of posing. It was 3.5 hours in the gym a day. Pre-show. It's pre-show. But in the first batch of weight loss, that was it. And what I learned was how critical it was for sleep to be dialed in.
Hi, it's Roman Bodnarchuk from the Best Half Show. Today is all about 10xing your life, 10xing your health, 10xing your business, 10xing your income. Our entire show is about making the second half of your life 10 times better than your first. But today we want you to 10x your algorithms. By you pressing subscribe right now on the Best Half Show, all of a sudden the feed that you get from Apple, from YouTube, from Spotify will change. You're gonna get content like ours, content that will help you 10x your life. So press subscribe now and 10x your life. Yeah, let's talk about that, because we spoke about that on the phone and it really resonated with me. Let's talk about the sleep.
Yeah. So in 2022, right when you and I reconnected, I had a guest on my podcast by the name of Lieutenant Colonel David Grossman. So Colonel Grossman is famous for writing the books On Killing and On Combat, which was all about the impact of killing people in combat on first responders, in the military, police.
High
Sold
stress.
millions of copies, actually hundreds of thousands of copies. He sold a couple million in total. But when he came on my show, he talked about sleep. And then I said to him, I know what your next book's going to be. He said, what? I said, it's going to be called On Sleep, and I'm going to co-write it with you. So we've agreed to do this book, and it's kind of been on the back burner for a variety of reasons, but I started to dial in research into sleep. We're chronically sleep deprived.
Yes.
It is aging us faster. It is preventing us from recovering. And when you don't sleep enough, your body holds on to fat.
Yeah, because the cortisol is elevated, right?
Plus, it's
Testosterone
part
is down.
of that. It thinks you're dying, so it holds on to fat to keep you alive. Because if you lose your fat, that's stores of fat are what your body relies on to keep you alive. So that's why people in cold climates tend to be fatter, because their body is saying you're going to die. You need some fat stores to kind of save you. So I learned that when I slept more, I leaned out faster.
Wow.
Yeah.
Super fast.
No doubt about it. I mean, I know the biochemistry of that, and it makes sense. And especially when you're lean, it's even more important, because when your cortisol is high, it means your testosterone is lower, you lose muscle, you gain more fat. It's like all bad. But I mean, we've been working on sleep. We've struggled with it. We both wear these Oura rings that track our deep sleep and our REM sleep.
It's super hard. I mean, yesterday I got sleep score 75, which is like, okay, but I'm not getting enough sleep. And you said to me, because I asked you how much sleep, and then you talk about people our age and how much sleep you got and the napping. Can we just talk about that?
Yeah.
That's really important.
So the ideal amount of sleep is like 7.5 to 8 hours at night, plus 1 to 2 hour nap in the afternoon.
Yeah, that's a huge commitment. Yeah.
Honestly, it really isn't.
Yeah.
We have been conditioned in the last 50, 60 years that sleep is not needed and do other shit instead. And that's wrong, because until about 1955, people would not sleep less than 8 hours. It was weird to sleep less than 8 hours, unless you were like in one of these jobs, like you were, on-call policeman or whatever. And those folks would have to get up in the middle of the night. When Dwight Eisenhower was president of the United States and he had a heart attack, his doctor prescribed to him 10 hours of sleep, flat on your back, every night, no exceptions. And that's what he did. That's how he recovered from sleep.
So what kind of interventions have you done in your sleeping chamber in order to make that happen? Because
no phone in my bedroom.
Okay, that's a big one.
That's huge.
That's number one. And I read paper books before I go to sleep. And I fall asleep quickly. I got blinds down, so the room's pretty dark. That really is it.
Yeah.
That
Probably
really
temperature
is it.
too. You probably have it.
I'm from the Middle East. I like it warm.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Fuck the cool shit, man. my lady likes it cool, and she goes, "Oh, we gotta make it cool." No, see, I'm from the Middle East. I like it warm.
Yeah.
I sleep in warm weather well.
And do you track your sleep, like how much you sleep? No.
Just by phone. I know
Just
when
you
I get
look
up.
by the clock and That's actually really interesting about you, because I've asked now a couple of questions that I would have expected you would have an answer off the top of your head, and you actually don't. So, like, for example, I know what my body fat percent is, although the measurements are all over the place, but at least I know what it is. I know how much I sleep. I know how many calories I eat a day. My guess is you don't know how many calories you eat a day either.
I don't track my calories.
It's unbelievable.
My
right?
coach told me you don't need to track those, and I found that for me, he's correct. There's people who need that. There's people who need all that stuff. Honestly, the things I focus on is making sure that I've gotten enough sleep at night, and that's not a number. That's how I'm going to feel in the morning. So last night, I knew that, my son now works for my coach. So I told my coach I want my son training me to help him out. And also, he's my son. I get to spend an hour with him that way, which I wouldn't otherwise be able to do. So a couple times a week I go and I train with my son. And Kayvon is way tougher on me than anybody, including Amber. And Amber's tough on me, okay? He just kicks my ass. So I knew I'm going to go train with this kid. I'm going to need some sleep. So I went to bed at 10. I was up at 5:45. That was 7 3/4 hours. That was good sleep. I felt really good with 7 3/4 hours, right? So I know I got that done. And I know when I go to train with Kayvon in the gym, we got an hour, and I got to go beyond failure on every set, which we did. and I know how much I have to eat. So I track to the gram the amount of food I eat, but I don't track calories, blah, blah, blah. So this morning I had 180 grams of beef, 100 grams of blueberries, 40 grams of oats. So I measure that. I got a measuring thing. I don't eat in restaurants. I measure and track my food to the gram, but I don't know the calories.
So you have a
I don't know the
kitchen scale at
macros.
home?
Yeah.
So you
I
go
have 3 kitchen scales at home. Bro.
Okay. Yeah. So
I track the shit that matters.
Yeah. So you track your macros. You track.
I don't track my macros.
Well, I
He's
mean,
telling me
the
he tell-
grams.
but you see, there's people who like that's what they said. Do you know your macros? I go, no, I don't know how many carbs or how much fat or how much. I go, I suppose I could, but that's not important. Amber's told me, eat this much, eat this much, eat this much. Okay, great. Here's the scale. Yep, done. If I didn't do that at 57, I wouldn't get that tight. You know what I mean? If I ate whatever the hell I wanted, but I don't track my sleep in that way. There's a lot of guys who've told me about the Aura Ring. Come get yourself an Aura Ring. Come track your sleep. I'm just not persuaded that it's that much of a value add for me, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
My biggest problem was I took my phone into my goddamn bedroom and I'd stay up till 1 in the damn morning.
that's
Stop
killer.
fucking doing that. And no kidding, I felt better. Like, I mean,
that's
surprise,
right.
surprise.
The number one, yeah.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
Get the phone out of your bedroom. Make sure that there's not some big ass light that's going to come in and
Right.
wake you up before you've had a proper amount of sleep.
Right.
You know, those are the things I focus on. But I don't know. For me, the Aura Ring thing has not been something that I felt I needed in order to make sure my sleep was good. The things that I think I needed is what I told you about. Get the phone out of the room, make sure that I'm in bed by a certain time, and you know, I'm up by a certain time to do what I got to do.
So, Nicky, number one was sleep. You'd say sleep was the most important.
By far.
Number two, would you say nutrition was number two?
Yep.
Okay. And then number three is the daily exercise.
Yep.
And when do you do this? Is that a first thing in the morning?
First thing in the morning.
Okay.
Almost
Let's talk
always.
about why the timing is important for you.
So look, Amber has actually told me that I would get better workouts if I did them in the mid-afternoon.
That's actually true.
Interesting.
That's what he's told me.
That's true. But
Yeah.
it's just so hard to do that.
Right.
And I told him I can hardly ever make that work.
Right.
Hardly ever.
Yeah, me too.
Just,
Me too.
He said, that's fine. You can do them in the morning. He said, training in the morning is good for leaning out. Like on fasted stomach, that's the best lean out thing is train in the morning, like do all your cardio then and blah, blah, blah. But you want to add muscle, about 2:30 in the afternoon is the ideal workout.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I heard it was 11 a.m. But yeah, I know biochemically or hormonally you're better off doing weight training in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
It's just hard. I think for a lot of people, you kind of want to do it in the morning, get it out of the
Get it over
way,
with,
and then
yeah.
you've got
The day
your
to
whole
work.
day
Yeah.
free. Well, if you like this episode, I would encourage you to hit the like button. Please make some comments. Like, we really want to meet some of you guys.
Yeah, listen, we'd love you to subscribe, leave us some comments, and we are planning some pretty fun parties coming up, so maybe we'll invite you. So yeah, please subscribe, give us a comment, and we look forward to meeting you in person as well.
Could have like instead of
true.
sitting around a meal, which everybody does these days, let's have a mastermind while you're training.
Yeah,
You know?
but it's true. Whenever I've really lifted a lot of weight, it was an afternoon workout for sure. So
Yeah,
I get
like
that.
strength-wise?
Strength-wise,
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. You want to go
you
for
do.
your 1 rep max, do it at 2 o'clock in the
Yeah.
afternoon.
Interesting. Okay.
So that is interesting. No, one of the things you mentioned was to failure. And that's
beyond.
one of the things, yeah. So it's interesting. I started following a guy similar to you. His name is PD Mangan. Same thing. He's a 70-year-old guy. He's ripped, and he has clients that are in their 60s and also in really good shape. And that's one of the things that he mentioned on his X post was training to failure, which I realized that I'm actually not doing. I would do like set of 12 reps, 10, 8,
Yep.
very standard, you know.
Yep.
But, you know, what if I could do more than 12? You can probably do more, and I wasn't doing it. So were you training to failure before? Is this something new that you've done because of VAMR?
When I was like a teenager, I would train to failure sometimes on some of the reps, some of the sets, but not on most of them. Training to failure on every set, that's
Right.
an Amber thing.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
right. And Amr is not, he's not here. He doesn't personally train you. So you're training by yourself or training with your son.
Well, the way his business model works primarily is they do what they call online coaching, which essentially is you pay a fee every month and they'll meet with you like remotely or whatever, or if you come into their facility, they'll meet you over there. They'll do a really deep dive with you on where you're at, where you want to get to. So they've got a whole process around that. And they'll give you a nutrition plan and they'll give you a workout plan. And then you do what's called a deep check-in every week. And the check-ins are a pain in the ass because You got to write down everything you ate. You got to write down all your workouts. Then they have you subjectively, evaluate how hard you worked out. Like, did you go to failure? Where's your sleep at? Scale of 1 to 10, a whole bunch of stuff. So it's a very detailed thing. And then you take photos of yourself. You have someone take photos of you. They look at your photos. So the deep check-in then results in changes every week to what you do. Now, when I was doing the show the last couple of weeks before, I did that deep check-in on a daily basis, which really sucked because there's a lot of work to get that done. But it's effective, man. I sent one of the men in the men's group that you and I were in, he looked at me, he goes, okay, I'm going to do it too. And this dude had been overweight his whole life. He'd never been slim. He was always a bigger dude. 260. He's now down to 197.
Wow. And muscular.
And abs and muscular. Body looks amazing, man.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, he said his wife's really happy.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. I think that's one of the things that we've talked about on the show is just because you're married or in a long-term relationship, you still have to look great. And that's important for relationship health for sure.
And I think when we do these things, we think we're doing it for ourselves. But what I've learned is our circle of influence, whether we know it or not, they get influenced by it. Sure. So my mom is in her mid-70s. She's been overweight most of my entire life. And the past year, she's lost about 50 pounds. She looks unreal.
That's great.
My friend Darren and I, we went to see her. Darren's been a friend of mine for 47 years. He's like, I've never seen your mom look that good. So something just triggered in her mind. And she didn't do a trainer. She didn't do anything we're talking about. But just something in her mind just said, that's it. You get that point of disgust.
Yes.
So we can do this at any age. It's just, but I think when you hit with, you get that point of disgust. You've got to look in the mirror and go, I've had enough. No more making excuses. But until you hit that point, it's really tough.
Yeah. No,
then we got to write that down. The point of disgust. That could be an actual piece of thought
Tony,
leadership we just came up with over there.
The point
of
Tony
disgust.
Robbins definitely talks about that too, right? You got to hit rock bottom, point of disgust. You have to actually even amplify that emotion further, like to really get into that. There's a lot of things in common kind of with what we've done. Like I know one of the reasons why I recommended that we take photographs, like we do professional photos, was a forcing function, which is exactly what you've done with respect to the fitness competition. You actually went on stage, competed against other people, which is...
I'm going to do it again, actually, very soon.
Yeah, because my guess is that this was important for you to do that because you could backslide. And I found out too with the photos. It's like, I'd have a craving to eat something at night, which is a big problem I have, which is nighttime food cravings, which is not because I'm hungry. It's because it's emotional for me, emotional salve. But I said, you know what? I'm paying a photographer, in a few weeks. Like, why would I do this to myself, right?
Yeah.
I need to go through with it and have the best possible photos. So it's great to have some kind of a forcing function, like that.
I want to address what you just said. So a lot of people have asked me, why do you keep paying Amber? You lost the weight. You can do it on your own now. That's a really good question. Here is what I have realized in 57 years of living. People who do shit on their own get mediocre results at best, at anything. They may fool themselves and lie and go, hey man, like I made 10 million. Dude, if you had the right team around you, that means you had the potential to make $1 billion. And you just squandered it because you're either nervous about listening to other people or your ego's too big to want to listen to some people, or some people are frankly just cheap. They don't want to pay. And I'm going to just say this. If you're watching this and you're an entrepreneur, you must understand the difference between spending and investing.
Yeah.
You spend money on this. It's a lovely jacket. It's lovely. I like it. As soon as I saw it, I said, Roman looks good in that jacket, right? It's awesome. You spend money on, these jeans or those shoes, those funky cool shoes you're wearing, right? That money, you spend it, is gone. Okay, you're going to enjoy it. You're going to benefit from it. But that spending is to put money out with no expectation of anything coming back. Investing is putting money out with an expectation of a massive return. 10x, 100x. The reason that I keep investing in myself with Amr and his team is because when I lost all the weight, something came to me as, what the hell else have I been telling myself I cannot do for whatever bullshit story that's a lie, like this? Because I've told myself, you're 50 now, you're not going to lose weight anymore. This is it. This is as good as it's going to get. And it was a lie, right? So investing with Amr gave me a different perspective. But the other thing it gave me was a fucking team. So Amr coaches me on, what to eat and how to work out and all that stuff. My son right now is the trainer there. There's another fellow named Josh Cooperband. He's my posing coach. So he coached me on posing. There's 15 coaches in there. They have over 900 clients. He's got a fantastic business, man. I think it's a $10 million a year business, which is amazing. And all these people were cheering me on. So I'm 57. Today I talked to Amr after I finished my workout with my son. He was there, he chatted. And he said, you could get your IFBB Pro card at 60, just in 3 years. I'm like, why would I want to do that? He said, it's a hell of an accomplishment. And I go, you know what? It is.
Sir, what does that explain after?
It is the International Federation of Bodybuilding professional card, which means I've been certified as a professional bodybuilder. I have won competitions to say that I'd be a professional level bodybuilder. That means I can get sponsors if I want to. I can go into the whole, not that I'd want to go into the professional circuit at that time, but being 60 years old, having an IFBB Pro bodybuilding card is going to allow me, inside the work that I do, with the coaching programs I provide for people, with the masterminds group that I run, it's going to elevate my brand to the nth degree. And we talked about this, you and I, on the phone, and even before we went on camera with Mark, that it would be cool to have a mastermind for men that will show them, hey, the second half of your life, as you said, can be better than the first half, but what about tangibly showing them that's possible?
Yeah.
Like showing, hey man, this dude's 60 fucking years old. He just got his pro bodybuilding card. This dude's 50 years old. He just married the love of his life. This dude's 70 years old. He's the new Colonel Sanders and he just made $100 million from his business. That stuff means investing in yourself is worth it. So for me, the, $30,000 plus a year that I'm spending on myself, like my health is worth millions to me. So this is nothing, absolutely nothing. But it's also a good, wise business investment because I believe me having spent this money on myself has allowed me to generate probably at least an extra 300 grand in revenue.
Wow.
And I think that given what I'm planning on doing with it going forward, I think it can generate an extra 7-8 figures.
Wow.
Is that amazing?
Yeah. No, and I can believe it. I think people, especially men, really do respect folks that have done that, have measurable success. And that's true in fitness, but it's also true of building a great business. It is true of your relationships. People do reference that. I remember when I was just starting out at Bain & Company here in Toronto, and we all revered the managing partner. And part of it was he was in great physical shape.
Right.
He dressed really well. I remember he had this incredible shearling coat. He always said that he wasn't married at the time. He had different women he brought to every event, but they were always stunning. And a lot of them Canadian Olympic athletes.
God bless them.
Yeah. Including one, I think a gold. I was a gold medal, but it was a medal winner in rowing that I remember.
There you go.
And her back was so wide in her dressing. Definitely remember that. But we all really, really looked up to him. And so I think like men do that. It doesn't surprise me that it's really affecting your business in a positive way.
I think it's really powerful. And what I didn't put together as an entrepreneur is I always thought the guys in the gym, those gym rat guys, they're just like dumb guys. I didn't know the science, but behind more muscle you have, the smarter you are. I had no idea. Like no one taught me this stuff. But I do remember a book I read by Donnie Deutsch. He ran an ad agency. He's on TV quite a bit. Yeah. And it was a great book. But I remember why he got into really good shape. And he said, every time I go to a boardroom, and I think at the peak his business was doing like $2 billion a year, like big numbers. Yeah. He said, I go in the boardroom, and he goes, I look around the boardroom, and he goes, I knew that I could beat anyone. I could beat up anyone in that room. But it gave him the self-confidence to present like a stud. And what happens, I think it's so true, the confidence. Look, I don't have abs like you guys do yet. They're coming soon. But this morning, I had my shirt off, getting dressed. I'm looking at myself in the mirror. I'm looking good. It sets your day. It sets your day. Like you just feel more confident. So I think anyone that wants to, 10x their business, 10x their income, it starts with your health.
100%.
And I think what you said is once you conquer the things that you said, I don't think I could do it. Well, then you realize I can do anything. Anything. And for me, it was intermittent fasting. Mark told me to do intermittent fasting for 5 years. And I'm Ukrainian. We can never miss a meal. Like I was violently opposed to it. And it's been the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. But once I learned that I could deal with hunger, like every day for about 16 hours, I'm like, I can do anything. So these things are really important. I think this, and it starts with your health.
It does all start with your health. And by the way, you want to see some really absolutely stunningly beautiful women, come to Hammer HQ. The women who work there and the women who come and train there and are being trained there, they are, oh my God.
Where is it?
It's in Scarborough.
Okay,
it's
in Toronto.
Progress.
Okay.
Yeah,
East End of Toronto.
You should go.
Yeah,
go get a workout.
I am actually shopping. I'm considering one person who has sounds like a very different plan, but still good from Amber. But I'd love to check it out and
listen.
see.
I'm happy to connect you with my son and Josh and Amber and those guys. They're amazing. Like I can't say enough about the results they'll get you and all of that good stuff. And if you decide to do a competition, it'll fucking change your life in ways you can't even remotely fathom. I can tell you all about it, but until you go through it, it's crazy. The last 2 months getting ready for the competition were some of the most intense periods of my life.
Let's talk about the hours you put in, because you told me even before that, like how many hours per week? Because people need to understand, to get these kind of results, it's not easy. Let's talk about the hours every week you committed to it.
So the baseline minimum that I worked out a week was 7 hours. And that's when I was doing no cardio and just weights. But when I was in contest prep to really lean out, I did an hour plus a day, 6 days a week. I did cardio up to 2 hours on top of that. Plus I did 20 minutes of posing coaching. So this is just the time in the gym. Then there's food prep, weighing, measuring, not going to restaurants. It's an intense amount of time. So I would say I was doing, in the last 2-3 weeks before the contest, 22 hours a week in the gym.
Wow. Yeah. So I love to hear that, because I've been doing my F45 classes, Monday to Friday, 5 days a week. Then I do a couple hours at this other place called Upgrade Labs. But I'm not getting the results that you guys are getting, but you guys are putting so much more time and effort into it. So you realize you've got to put in the time. You've got to do what it takes.
Yeah, and in your case, brother, honestly, you should just lift weights. Like I would suggest this to you. Go to I know that gym's far for you, but go there one day and say, look, put a weightlifting program together for me and bite the bullet and let them show you how to do the weights once.
Okay.
And then just do it for 6 months, because lifting weights, man, is how you get results. Yeah. Period.
I agree.
Full stop.
I agree. Mark's
end
told
of
me the
story.
same thing.
Classes, no offense, but classes ain't where it's at.
So I agree. Like
you're a badass warrior of a man, bro. You need to lift heavy shit.
Yeah. No, there is something, and I do F45 also. For me, F45 is my version of cardio, because it's like it's heavy. It's lots of reps, not a lot of rest, which I'm not used to. So normally I lift heavy, 2 minutes of rest between a set, sometimes longer if I'm looking on my phone.
Don't have your phone when you're in the gym.
Yeah.
And Amber, he does not allow you to have your phone in the gym.
Which is actually really smart.
Dude, it's on the goddamn wall. He's got his rules. You break their rules, they'll kick your ass.
Yeah, because it's a big waste of time. But yeah, no, I think to get into super lean shape, if you're getting, especially at this age, sub 10% body fat, like you probably and I remember when I did a physique transformation contest when I was 25, and I had a coach then too, and same thing, like I had to do cardio in the evening to burn off whatever was left. But I got to 6%, I was really, really shredded. Yeah. But it's 25. It's a lot harder now at 50. Oh my God.
You can still do it, bro.
Yeah. No, and actually,
listen, if a dude like me can do it, you can do it. It's you just got to follow a plan and listen to a coach, and you got to be disciplined around it. Honestly.
Yeah, I think that's right.
When you're a successful man, your ego's your friend to a point. when it becomes your enemy. Because you have to have an ego. You have to have an ego. You have to believe in yourself. You got to go out there and do shit. But your ego can fool you into thinking you're omniscient. And you're fucking not omniscient. You're just a dumbass jerk like all the rest of us who happen to get really good at one or two things. About everything else, you're a dumbass. Stop pretending you're anything other than that. Listen to people with a lot more experience and with a lot better results. You do that, you're going to be in great shape. When I walked into that gym, 227, a fat fuck. Man, I'd wear big shirts so nobody could see my goddamn belly. I was embarrassed and ashamed of myself. Right now, man, I go in the gym, and when I'm done with the weights, I jump on the cardio machines, I take my shirt off. You know what I mean? I go, yeah, young girls, get a load of this. Not that I want any of you to walk up to me or anything, and they won't. I'm still an old man. But it's good to be able to say that to myself. And I remember what the Romans would do for their generals when they came from a victory and had a triumph in Rome. You know the triumphs they had in ancient Rome? The Roman general would be on his chariot, being dragged through, and the crowds would be cheering him on. He had a slave next to him whose job was every 20 seconds to whisper in his ear, remember, you are just a man. Right. Remember, you are just a man. So it doesn't go to his head too much. And for now, this is the most dangerous thing for the successful man, is to buy that crap that because you got some success in one place in your life, it means you're the best. You don't need anything from anybody else. No, man, you need a lot from everybody else. Roman Bodnarchuk is a man I respect very greatly. He knows things about how to scale a business, about how to come up with out-of-the-box ideas for making money out of nothing like nobody I know. And one of the reasons that I appreciate him is because I'm at a stage in my life where I'm doing decently well. I don't want to just do decently well anymore. I want to do the equivalent of going on a contest inside my business life. Am I going to tell Roman to tell me what to do? No, I'm going to come to Roman and say, Roman, so what did you do? I'm going to take notes. I might record the entire conversation. I'm not going to argue with a damn thing he says. I'm going to listen, and I'm going to synthesize what I learned, and I'm going to take that into my own life. And if you're doing this in fitness, man, find people who get results for people. And to me, guys, bodybuilders are experts at body transformation. It's what they do. I've worked with Olympic champion coaches. I've worked with guys who are CrossFit champion coaches. The bodybuilders got me the best results fastest because they know the science. They know what to do to make the muscles pop and grow and be stronger. And the whole age conversation doesn't exist in the bodybuilding world. Yeah. It doesn't. You ever heard? Do you remember in the 80s a British bodybuilder named Albert Beckles?
Yes.
Did you ever hear? The Albert Beckles,
he was the oldest Mr. Olympia ever. Yeah.
He didn't actually win it, but he was the oldest competitor that was in the top ranks. Albert Beckles at 55 had muscles up the ass, had abs that were going like this, chiseled, ripped. If you looked at his face, it was the only way you could tell his age because his body looked like 22.
Yeah, his back is legendary.
Right. And that's why I went to a bodybuilder, because these guys, they know not just what they're talking about, they know the science, and the head trash around what you can do and can't do goes out of the way.
Yeah, they knew it back. Like I remember, so when I did my physique transformation, it was 1999. And the bodybuilders knew a lot of things that today we all know about low carbs and whatever. Right. But back then, that was absolutely not conventional wisdom. Nope. Everyone was saying fat is the enemy. Yeah. Right? And meanwhile, Schwarzenegger's pounding back the raw eggs.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And Sylvester Stallone.
Like a lot of these, and a lot of it's because you mentioned Frank Zane, and Arnold Schwarzenegger and Franco Columbu and all these guys. I mean, they were scientists essentially. They were experimenting on their own bodies, right? And they were corresponding with, real scientists who knew about what was cutting edge. Exactly. And back then we didn't really know today, which is, the enemy is big food, big pharma, all this stuff that is actually conspiring. Yes. Something I read that blew my mind was that, I just mentioned about sort of sugar and fat, like essentially big sugar companies, big food companies literally bribed two scientists to create fabricated like fabricated experiments showing that saturated fat is the reason why people are getting fat and sugar was fine. I mean, how many hundreds of millions of people have been globally have had a premature death or even worse, been a drain on their families, not been able to produce their potential because of this fraudulent stuff, right? Meanwhile, the bodybuilders knew all of this, and they knew that carbs were the big problem, that you could eat lots of fat. In fact, even saturated fat, and we quibble a little bit because I think grass-fed steak is a health food.
It is a health food.
It's like the best health food there is.
By far.
And my counterpart here has some outdated information on that, right? But that's actually a health food. And again, the bodybuilders all knew
Sorry,
that.
Roman, he's right.
No, and I do think he's right, but I do have it's only been 30 years, some ethical issues. But no, listen, and I think you can get the same result. Two guys can be right with different answers. So, I'm
not sure about that.
I'm going to get the abs.
Well, at least
and
he's not a vegan.
Yeah,
So he pounds back the eggs. So that works.
I will get the abs without the steak. So it's going to happen.
Listen,
It just takes longer.
you can do it without
longer.
the steak. You can do it with chicken. You can do it with fish. You can do it with turkey. Those all work. Those will all work.
Yeah.
But anyways,
I want to get to some other things. So we talked about the really difficult things, like the sleep is so important, the no phone. We talked about nutrition. We talked about a lot of working out. I agree. It's all about weight training. But let's talk about other things that you gave up. Let's talk about going to restaurants. Let's talk about maybe alcohol, some other things that you had to give up, because if you hadn't done those things, you wouldn't have got those results. So we talked about some of the things you gave up.
I never drank alcohol, so that wasn't an issue for me.
Okay,
I know for
good.
a lot of folks it is.
Okay.
But I honestly, in the last year and a half, I can count the number of times I've been to a restaurant on the fingers of two hands. Like,
Wow.
It's been like 6 or 7 total. And
That's huge.
after the competition, went to a restaurant once. That was it. I went to a nice restaurant. I went to the Butcher Chef. Do you know that restaurant?
No.
Dude, it's the best steakhouse in North America.
The Butcher Chef?
Yeah, it's on. It's at Yonge and Queens Quay.
All right.
My buddy told me to say his name, but my buddy owns it. I'll let you know his name off the side. It's amazing. You prepare to spend a couple of bucks, but phenomenal steaks. Phenomenal. That I haven't been to a restaurant since. Like Amber said, you got 2 days. You're doing another show. You're back on an eating plan. So now I can eat beef. I wasn't allowed to eat beef for 2 months. That really pissed me off because I love my steak.
That's an interesting restriction.
Yeah, it was for leaning out.
Oh, okay.
To get chicken breast leans out faster.
Okay.
than
Yeah.
steak is.
So you got really.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, and I hope people are not going to get discouraged on this one, because I actually don't think you have to be that extreme to get into quite good shape. So I'm at, I don't know what, 13%.
No, dude, I'm doing a competition.
Yeah.
That's
It's
different.
different.
No,
It's
no,
different.
It's different.
I know,
if I wasn't doing a competition, I'd still be eating steak every day,
so
bro.
that's why I want to distinguish that, right?
Yes.
And that's why I'm like totally supportive, for example, of you doing F45. At the beginning, I'm just like, oh, come on, that's so Mickey Mouse. And I started doing it too.
Yeah.
And the reason why is I can walk there in 8 minutes. So, the best workout that you do is the one you do.
Right.
You actually go and do it,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And when you drag your ass out of bed and go and do it.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing is true on nutrition. I eat it. I actually do enjoy it at restaurants. I eat at restaurants a couple times a week. I'm pretty careful about what I eat. I'm still able
if
to
you do
get
a show, you're going to have to give it
I know
up.
that. Yeah. I don't know if
And I
do it.
recommend you do at least one show in
Yeah.
your life,
Yeah.
just because the level that it'll take you to, you will love.
I know it's tough because I know when I
But
did
16 weeks, no restaurant, you can live with it.
Yeah, and no, because I know when I did my physique transformation at 25, like my coach cut out all the dairy in the last month. That's hard. I like my Greek yogurt. Even cut out the fruits.
I have Greek yogurt as part of my meal plan every day.
Okay, so they still let you do it, but I had to cut out all the fruit. I love fruit. Like fruit makes me feel like a rich man. Like when I get to eat, especially tropical fruit, I feel great. That last month was tough, man. It was miserable, but. I got to
Blueberries and a
6%.
banana,
Like 6% is what a fitness competitor will compete
Needs
at.
to be at,
right?
yeah, needs to be at.
And that, like, to get into that kind of elite shape and keep all that muscle while you have to do very unnatural things. But I still think you can get into like amazing shape where you do see defined abdominals, where you do see striations in the chest. I mean, you see grip forearms, you see the nice butt. I mean, all the things that women love. You can get there, but you're not going to get the competition level shape but you'll still get into awesome shape.
But I do think
go
we
to a
have to give
restaurant,
things.
yeah.
So you didn't have alcohol already,
No.
but I know Mark and I gave that up, and it made a huge difference.
That'll make a massive difference.
And last week was the first time I had some drinks, and I mean, I regret it for days after that. Like the impact, what it does to you, like you forget until you're like, oh man, this is like a really bad idea. So I think it's important that people understand that, you've got to have these good habits. So let's just wrap up in terms of best practices. So what I do know, which is really interesting, about 10% of Americans have reached a millionaire status, but less than 1% you can see their abs. It's actually, much more difficult to see your abs and to become millionaires.
I did not know
yes,
that. That's
it's
powerful.
1% versus 10%. So it's very interesting.
A million doesn't buy a lot anymore.
It doesn't. But how great is it when you're both, right? It's pretty cool when you're both. So what are some final thoughts if you're giving advice to somebody brand new? And let's just talk to somebody that maybe is out of shape and maybe they've been working so hard in their business. They've been a provider for their family. They've really given everything they could. And then they get home and they're tired and they're lazy and they just haven't taken their body seriously. Like I was one of those guys. I know Mark was one of those guys. We thought we're doing a great job providing for our family, but we really weren't putting our health first. Talk to that person right now. What advice would you give to them?
That's a great question. So first and foremost, make a decision. Everything in life starts with a decision. Don't be a tire kicker. Don't think about it. The point of disgust, I love that phrase, by the way. I think it's powerful, is what impelled me to make that decision. Whatever impels you to make that decision, to make the decision, say, fuck it, no more. I'm going to get in shape. This shall be. So that decision's important. And commit to doing whatever it takes. That means you got to be willing to suck at it before you become mediocre, before you become before you become good, before you become great. Commitment means you got to be willing to suck at something before you can possibly be the best version of it for yourself. Finally, get a freaking coach. Yeah. Do not do this by yourself. I'm telling you, I recommend a bodybuilder that has done it at the highest levels and has coached lots of people. Someone like Amr. And I recommend Amr because he was my coach. But if you're wanting, if you're in a different city and you want someone who's like local in your city, they're out there. Find them and go work with them. They understand body transformation better than any other type of health and wellness coach. And in my opinion, they'll get you the results the fastest. Okay. And then finally, you've got to be resourceful. You've got to come up with the time in your calendar. You've got to come up with the energy, because there's going to be days that I had brutally low energy, especially in contest prep. There were days where I'm like, I don't have any energy. How am I going to do this? But you still got to come up with it. You got to make it happen. And finally, you got to come up with the money to invest in yourself, for a coach, for all the food. And if you quit alcohol, it might end up costing you less, actually, now that I think about it. But for everything else, you've got to be resourceful. So decide, commit, get a coach and be coachable, and be resourceful.
I love that. Mark, any parting words from you? Any advice? Because you just went through this.
Well, I think that wraps it up. Those are really great. I mean, the thing that really came up for me the most was get a great coach. Get a great coach and just do what he or she says to do. I think you got to put in the time to vet the coach properly. So I think you probably did
6 years.
Yeah. So you spent the time. And so I think find somebody who not only has done that, but ideally is still at it, is still actively in there and is learning all the time.
All the time.
And so once you find it, so do all that hard work, but once you find that person, just go with it, right? 4 months, I'm just going to do even something that maybe on the surface doesn't make sense. Like you mentioned oats. Like, why would I eat oats? But you know what? If I had that as a coach, I would eat the frickin' oats.
I tell you what, gentlemen, because you said that, I have a bunch of coaching sessions on account with Amr through my son. I'm going to gift one to each of you. Go see my son.
Great.
Go see my son.
Yeah.
Do a
All
workout
right.
with him.
I'm in. I'll head to Scarborough, which is a big commitment.
Yeah, we'll do it.
You don't have to go there every time. But the first time, probably a good idea.
For those of you listening, even if you don't want to become an elite athlete like these two fellas, I would say to you, you're not just doing this for yourself. You're going to impact the people you love. I've seen this in my own life. Yeah. My parents have never lifted weights in their whole life. 3 days a week, they're meeting me in a gym in Oakville, which is a bit of a commitment for us. They're lifting weight. Wow. It's incredible that my dad's 78 years old. I mean, looking at my mom today, it's incredible what she's been able to achieve. The night I drank last week, which was a bad idea. Of course, that night, at 4:30 in the morning, my son calls and goes, "Dad, can we play basketball at 5 in the morning?" I'm like, "Of course, I'll be there." But the fact that my son's getting up at 5 in the morning and playing basketball.
That's amazing.
My daughter that's never worked out messaged me the other day. She's like, "Dad, I just did a 5-mile bike ride." I mean, even though we don't know if they're having an impact, I think it does.
It massively does.
So people around us, you're going to help transform the people that you love most. So I think it's really, really important. So we encourage you to live your best life, and it starts with health. Thanks for joining us today.
Can I just add one thing about that?
Sure.
The people in your life, because I think that's such an important point. I think for everybody, this is it. So when I did this, my lady decided to do this. When I lost all the weight, my ex-wife called me and said, I want to lose weight. So she's actually hired my son now to help her twice a week. My ex-wife did this. Both my sons saw this, and I could see that they wanted to like push harder. It'll make everybody you care about inspired to be better. So if there's no other reason to do it than that, as a man, that's the reason to do it.
I love it. Great way to end this. Thanks you so much.
Thanks for
being
having
our first guest.
Thanks
Awesome.
for having me. It was a pleasure.